Hello, my name is Aubrey Taylor, and this is our next maternal mental health series video. And so today we're going to be talking about how motherhood impacts relationships. So, just a little bit about me. I am a Master of Social Work student and intern with the Cameron County Mental Health Task Force. And so, what initially sparked my interest in maternal mental health was becoming a mother. I'm a mother of a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, and it's just been such a wonderful journey. And I feel like it was important for me to be able to share my story and share what supports and services and tools are available out there for other mothers. And so, just a little bit about the mission for the Cameron County Mental Health Task Force, and it is to enhance community awareness, dedication, and resources to address behavioral requirements of Texas residents. And the purpose of me providing this maternal mental health series is to provide a safe and supportive space to talk about maternal mental health and help you build tools for your well-being. And I do want to share a confidentiality statement. I want you to know that what's shared here stays here with one exception. If I learn that someone may harm themselves or others, I am required to take action to ensure safety. Other than that, this is a safe and private and respectful place to be able to be heard. And so, just a little introduction. I want to say welcome back again to the Maternal Mental Health series. Today, we're going to be discussing relationships. Um, and so, the relationships, specifically the relationships that matter the most, and how they can be impacted through the journey of motherhood. So, relationships could be with a partner, with a family, or with a friend. No matter what relationship it may be, know that our relationships naturally shift over time once we step into motherhood. And so I want to take a closer look at how we can kind of nurture those relationships. Um, we're going to talk about communication and setting boundaries while still honoring our own needs. So first, I want to discuss some common relationship challenges after we step into motherhood. And so some of those challenges may be increased tension or misunderstandings with partners. And a lot of times the tension and misunderstanding could be maybe about the new expectations that are in place after having a baby, or maybe who's going to be taking on what role. And so, when those things come up, when you have that new role of being a mom or being a parent, it is very difficult to kind of have a common ground because you're in a whole new world. And so, you're going to have those misunderstandings and that tension. And so another challenge would be those shifting dynamics within extended family and friends. So I think we have a lot of free time before we become a mother, and so after becoming a mother, uh, things start to change. And so who we were before is not who we are when we step into motherhood. And I think that takes family and extended family and friends getting used to the new person that you are. In addition, another challenge would be those feelings of isolation and feeling unsupported. A lot of the times, when it comes to those friends, um, maybe those friends haven't immersed themselves in motherhood yet. Maybe they haven't become mothers, and so they don't understand maybe what you're going through. And maybe the family members, maybe they didn't get the support that they needed, and so that may cause you to feel unsupported in your journey. And I'll talk about some things that can kind of help ease these challenges. And so lastly, a common relationship challenge after having kids is those changes in intimacy, communication, and priorities. As I've said before, motherhood changes your whole entire world. And so when it comes to the relationship that you and your partner have, it will probably not be the same. It's going to take work to kind of get back into a sense of normalcy. And if even if things don't become normal again, it takes work to figure out what normal may look like for y'all now that y'all are parents. And communication. You may need to find a new way of communicating with people, especially since um, your world is revolving around your baby. You need to figure out what boundaries you need to set and how to be able to communicate your needs, as well as prioritizing what's most important for you in this new role as a mother. And so, a few research highlights that I want to focus on are by Williamson. And Williamson found that mothers often experience pressure to live up to intensive mothering ideals, which can create stress and resentment in partner relationships. And so what this research basically says is that when we step into motherhood, we feel that pressure to meet all of the expectations as a mother, but that's often realistic. And so we have to figure out what motherhood looks like for ourselves, and not what the world says motherhood looks like. And the next research highlight is by Matheson, and so it highlights that support from a partner, family, and friends significantly buffers the emotional toll of motherhood, especially for mothers with a history of adverse childhood experiences. And so these adverse childhood experiences could be maybe you didn't grow up with two parents in the household, or maybe you grew up in a very toxic environment. Maybe you grew up um, in a family who maybe just didn't know how to express their needs emotionally. And so having support can definitely help, especially if you have past trauma that you are dealing with and you don't know how to manage when you become a mother yourself. So next, we're going to talk about healthy communication and setting boundaries. In our previous session, when we discussed how we can strengthen a support system for mothers, um, it's important that we talk about healthy communication and setting boundaries again because of how motherhood kind of impacts those relationships. And so, in motherhood, communication. Um, can have those breakdowns. And that's probably because of exhaustion. We are so exhausted with everything that we need to take care of, taking care of the baby, making sure that, the house is clean, that we're cooking, that we're trying to take care of our own selves. That causes exhaustion. Also, resentment, and resentment is us basically having those. Resentment is basically feeling like our needs are not met, and then as well as misaligned expectations. So when we have those unspoken expectations and we don't communicate them, this can cause a barrier in whatever relationship that you have with your partner, with your family, or with your friends. And so, next is the importance of expressing those needs clearly. And so, nobody is going to know what you're going through unless you express that. And so, expressing your needs clearly will start to eliminate that feeling of exhaustion, that feeling of resentment, as well as those misaligned expectations. People cannot read your mind. People can't assume how you're feeling. They may see you doing all of the things, but it's important for you to make sure that you're expressing your needs clearly, so that people can be able to support you in the way that you need to be supported. And lastly is boundary setting. And I've talked about this in previous videos before. Setting boundaries is so important. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect and relationship care. And so know that the boundary isn't just for other people, the boundary is for yourself as well. Because if we don't set boundaries with ourselves and if we don't know what we need, and if we can't tell ourselves to kind of pause and take a second, we can't expect others to do the same. And so setting boundaries, um, eliminates that exhaustion, and it allows us to look at the bigger picture, figure out what we need for ourselves so that we can be able to ask for those needs from other people. And so I do want to give a few tips for communication. The first one is to use I statements. I think when we're setting boundaries and when we're having healthy communication, it is important that we do not project how we're feeling on others. And so instead of focusing on the other person, we want to use I statements. For an example, I feel overwhelmed when I'm having to wake up multiple times a night by myself and feed the baby and change the baby. That focuses on you and how you're feeling instead of what maybe another person is not doing. Another tip for communication is to avoid that blame. Like I said before, maybe you feel like you're not very supported when it comes to um, taking care of the baby. Maybe you feel like you're the only one meeting the baby's needs. And so instead of avoiding that blame, or in order to avoid blame, using those I statements will allow us to express ourselves and focus on our needs. And lastly, it is important for communication that we set limits with love. Okay. And this goes back to setting boundaries. So if you know you need that you feel like you don't have time for yourself, but in order to make time for yourself, it is so important to express like how what you need and how much time you need. So for an example, I need 30 minutes to myself after work. And it can be 30 minutes to just take a couple of minutes to breathe. It can be 30 minutes to take a shower. It could be 30 minutes to maybe just eat. But asking for those limits and setting those boundaries will eliminate that feeling of exhaustion and resentment. And another research insight is by Yan, and it suggests that navigating family obligations and open communication with extended family members, especially in culturally rooted households, is essential for maternal well-being and healthy parenting. And so, your family obligations are going to change when you become a mother. But what alleviates a lot of those challenges that you feel, is that open communication with family members, so that you can make sure that you are getting what you need, and so that you, are making sure that you maintain those healthy relationships. And so I want to provide you with a little activity. It's called role-playing communication scenarios. And this just gives you the opportunity to practice those communication and boundary setting skills before you actually use them in real time. And so I want you to choose a real or imagined situation where communication has been difficult. And then I want you to practice saying what you need using the tools that we shared today. So I want you to practice using those tools with the I statements. I want you to practice avoiding using blame, and I want you to focus on your needs. Okay. And so just a few examples to help you with this activity. Ask your partner for more help with nighttime feedings. Another example would be telling a family member you need space or support without guilt. And lastly, another example would be expressing your need for adult conversation or alone time to a friend. Okay, so pause this video, write down a couple of scenarios. They could be real, something that you have previously dealt with, or it can be a situation that you imagine. But I want you to use these examples and write down some scenarios and how you can practice that healthy communication and setting boundaries for yourself. Okay. After you complete this activity, I want you to tell me, or I want you to write down how it felt to practice stating your needs out loud. Then I want you to tell me, do you feel like it was easy or do you feel like it was challenging? 9 times out of 10, it will be challenging. But I think being able to role play will make it easier over time with practice. A small takeaway has to do with a healthy relationship checklist. And this is something that you can also write down on a blank sheet of paper. And so, included in this checklist, I want you to think about if you feel heard and supported in your relationships. I also want you to think about if you're able to express yourself honestly. Being able to express yourself honestly is important because that's how you'll begin to have your needs met. Another thing on this checklist that I want you to think about are if your boundaries are respected by yourself and by the people that you are presenting your boundaries to. And lastly, on the checklist, I want you to think about if there's space for mutual care and not just caretaking. Okay. In just a few more research highlights, Williams emphasized the protective role of extended family, especially for single or transitioning mothers, noting that co-residing with family members can foster stability and shared caregiving responsibilities. And so, if you don't really have a lot of support, but your support is an extended family, especially if you're a single mother, if you're transitioning, uh, or you're a transitioning mother, really using the activity that we did in the last video about focusing on who your support system is can help things feel more stable and can help you share the responsibility of parenthood. And then our last highlight is by Zia, and Zia found that the quality of early family relationships and positive functioning, highlighting the importance of modeling healthy relationship skills in the home. And so I think this really goes back to um, making sure that you're breaking those generational cycles. So if you maybe you didn't grow up with a healthy family due to those adverse childhood experiences that we talked about, maybe you grew up in a lot of with a lot of trauma. Um, Making sure that you are maintaining emotional regulation and positive functioning um, can build on modeling healthy relationship skills in your current home. And so lastly, I want to offer support. If you want to talk more about your relationship dynamics or practice boundary setting with someone you trust, I'm offering one-on-one check-ins. Um, Usually it's available during the week in the evenings. You don't have to navigate this alone. And so if you would like to have one-on-one support, you can email me at CameronCountyMentalHealth@gmail.com. And lastly, I want to say thank you for taking time for yourself today and your relationships. Next week, we're going to dive into the connection between physical and emotional wellness. Have a good day.